Hey flock, um, I am going to show you guys a few tips and tricks. Hopefully, I assume a lot of you are probably already doing this. You may have already even seen it somewhere, I don't know, but this is what I do to ensure that I deliver clean, happy audio to my producers, to my publishers, to myself. If I'm editing, I'm the one that edits the majority of my own stuff. So I definitely want to make sure. And I want to just point out too right now that I don't wear headphones. So those of you who do wear headphones can probably hear when background changes happen, but I can't. And I have never worn headphones from the very beginning. So I really had to learn how to read my audio. And I did that also because I learned how to edit from the very beginning. And so it just kind of all came together. But this is so let's just get into it for Christ's sake. Okay, you're sitting here recording. This is your script over here on this side. This is your DAW. Make sure that you can see your DAW at all times. If you can't see your DAW, find out a way to. Even if you record from a tablet, your script is on a tablet, make sure you have your DAW on a separate screen inside of your booth where you can see it. Okay. This is not how I record. You can't see anything. Look how small this waveform is. So I am using Studio One. I don't know what you're using, but hopefully your DAW has the ability to zoom in like mine does. Over here on this side, this little button, you can zoom it in and out, and I always have mine fairly zoomed in. The reason for this is so that I can see background changes. So this is my background right here. You can see it's pretty clean. I can see breaths. I can see this is probably a little bitty noise fart. I've been sick, as you can probably hear. So being able to catch all of that. And then when you're going from one room tone, when you're recording, not going from one room tone, but when you're recording and your room tone changes, when your environment changes, when a truck goes by or a plane goes by or the heater kicks on. You see that grungy crap? Look at that. You can tell that this is not your room tone. It should not look like that. This is what your room tone should look like. Look how nice that is. So this is the majority of the reason that I record with my waveform zoomed in, so that I can see when this happens. Because if something happens like this, you have to go all the way back to where, I'm assuming it's here. I think this was just me. All the way back to here and re-record all of this. You cannot leave this in. What you don't want to do is leave it in, and then your engineer has to process this audio differently from this audio, because that can potentially cause issues. And it doesn't make anybody happy. That's not happy audio. When I see audio that has two backgrounds like this and something happened, something kicked on, something went by, somebody's kid was running down the hallway. Mine does that. He sounds like an elephant when he's running down the hallway, or when he's walking down the hallway, for crying out loud. So I have to stop if I hear him. But anything that happens that changes your background, you really need to stop, wait for it to go by, and punch back when your background was nice, and start going. The other reason for recording with your waveform zoomed in is that you can't see any breaths here. I can't see any breaths. So I don't know where breaths are. So I could just say, okay, I'm going to punch here because this I fudged up. So I'm just going to punch right here.
Environment changes when
And now I'm going blah, 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 blah. But well, shoot. I got that kind of good. So let's just do this again. You're trying. Let's say you're going to punch here.
changes when
And then you're going. Okay. So now you have this cut off breath. If you can see it, I know that this whole thing is here, but you can see this breath is cut off. So now you have this like, and then nothing. And it's just going to sound weird. So if you have your waveform zoomed in, you know, I can't punch here. That was a breath, so I need to punch here. And the other thing too that I see a lot of really quick while we're talking about cut off breaths is punching in
changes when
and then taking and then going, like you take another breath. So then you have like, no, it doesn't sound good. And the problem with it is that your editor now has to come back in and fix all this. Because essentially they're going to have to put room tone over it. Because if the pacing is right, if this was the pacing, which it should be, your pacing should be perfect when it goes to your editor. Your editor should not be touching your pacing. But then they have to mess with this. So my goal when I'm done recording, I expect that my audio is basically perfect. My editor is not going to have to mess with pacing. They're not going to have to mess with breaths. They're just going to punch in the pickups and master it, and off it goes. That's the goal. Now, I do my own editing, so I always go through and comb through and make sure everything's good. But your proofer should be able to tell you if anything happens. Like, we work with a lot of components, so glitchy things can happen sometimes, failures of certain things. And your proofer should be able to tell you, this is, what's happening here, or this is a pickup because it was a glitch. And that's where you know the times that you've messed up. But things like this should not occur. Issues like this should not be happening. Large breaths shouldn't be happening, which is fine until you learn to manage it. Learn proper breathing techniques in recording. And until then, just let your editor know, hey, I'm figuring this out, but for now, can you just double check my breaths? And they'll be happy to do that because that's what they do. But I'm sorry. Ideally, when you're done, you want your audio to be basically perfect, especially with timing. You shouldn't have any, there should be nothing like you're going along and you're reading and all of a sudden a new character comes in and then you go. Because in this couple of seconds, 2 seconds, you were trying to figure out, how does this guy sound? What was it? What is it that, what was his voice like? Or getting into character. That's not okay, because then your editor has to come back in and they have to, take all this out and fix the pacing, and you don't want that. So just stop. When you see that the guy is coming, stop. Figure out what he sounds like. Go back right here and punch in. Just make it flow, because you want to not be. You don't want to have any instances in your audio that aren't flowing, that aren't part of the story. So swallows, extra added breaths that you're having to take. Breathing, we all breathe, for Christ's sake. I mean, you have to breathe, but learning how to breathe with the script. And if for some reason you just got out of a really big, scene, for us, romance narrators at Pink Flamingo, it's usually a hot and heavy scene. And you need to take a friggin' breath because it was like, go, go, go. Just stop recording, take your breath, take a minute, get back into it, and go again. It doesn't have to take you out of the story. It just means you need a second, right? You just need, even if it's once, even if you just, you're going, and everything's going, oh my gosh, and then you just need to take a minute, and you're back in. And now you're back in. Like, you just need that second to take your, like, breath, right? Like, calm down. Okay. So it takes time to learn, and I'm sure a lot of you already use this feature. And if your DAW does not have this feature, then perhaps you might need a new DAW because it really is so good to have, especially if you don't wear headphones. If you don't wear headphones, you absolutely need to be doing this, because you have to learn how to read your audio. You need to know when things are happening. Is this a nose fart? Is it a click? And another thing too, I can pretty much view my screen. I can see my waveform. And if I get all crazy and I'm like moving around and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you can see it in the waveform. Like I can see this is not okay. It should not be like this. And you shouldn't be moving like that anyways, but there's so many reasons to have your waveform zoomed in and to be able to learn how to read your audio. Like this, I would probably redo because breath. I mean, it's just too much, so it's just nice to know. It's good for punching in. It's good for learning, seeing the differences in background changes. Because when that's my background and I know that that's what it should look like, because of my booth, your background might look different and that's fine. But this is what mine looks like. And if it changes, then I know I have to stop and I have to go back where it was fine. And I just think it's a really good tool. I think it's really important to understand what your audio is doing as you're going. I know it's so many things that we have to juggle, on top of performance, on top of reading. You also have to be glancing over. And it takes time, but eventually it'll just become second nature. It takes time to learn. But it's so important, especially if you want to send your clients happy audio, and you do, because if you send them unhappy audio, they're not going to want to work with you again. So making sure that you're sending your clients happy audio, and it's just so important if you want to be able to continue to get work from them. So that's really it. If you have any questions, you can let me know. Otherwise, good luck, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.